You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 88.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Well, this will be my last week recording the podcast from this condo. If you have been following along with the podcast or at all on social media, we are moving. This is going to be my second move since selling the house that we thought we would bring our babies home to after our fertility treatments. And when my fertility treatments ended and I didn't end up becoming a mom, I clung to a lot of things in my life. And I want to talk about that this week because I think when you go through this process of imagining your life being at a certain place and being moving in a certain direction and it doesn't end up that way, there's a part of us, I think, as humans that don't want to let go of the things that feel secure or the things that feel explainable or predictable or understandable in your life, which is fine. There's no need that just because you find out that you're not going to become a mom, that all of a sudden you feel like you have to uproot your life and change a million and one things. But for me, at least, finding out that I couldn't become a mom, I realized that there was an opportunity for me to grow from that. And I'm going to talk this week about some of the growth that I've experienced in my own personal life and also share some things that some of the students that I work with have been able to grow and see change in their life from a place that took some courage and maybe took some dreaming and took some willingness to put things out in the universe and declare what it is that you are looking for, even if you have no clue if it's going to ever come true for you or whether it's seemingly too big for you to even think it's possible for you to achieve. And if you feel yourself wanting change in your life or maybe seeking more but not knowing where to go, I invite you to just sit here, listen, and maybe allow yourself to disconnect from the things in your life that are telling you you can't or you shouldn't or it's too risky. So let me first talk about the move thing. And if you find yourself in a house that every time you walk past a certain room or when you think about certain occasions going on, you think of that house as having been the place you thought you would be hosting Christmases or hosting a birthday party for your kids, or maybe you bought a house that had a swing set in the backyard, or maybe there's a room that you walk past that in your mind was always going to be the nursery for that child that you thought you were going to bring home. And you find yourself not feeling good in this place because it has too many reminders of a life that didn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to be with children. I invite you to maybe sit back and ask yourself, where would you see yourself going if this isn't the house or the apartment or the townhome or wherever it is that your living situation is that you purchased or were forward thinking into this future that was going to have children in it? Where else would you go? Not where could you go, not where could you afford to go, not like, don't put any parameters around it, but take some time. You can even pause right now if you have your journal with you and you want to do some paper thinking. Pause and just allow yourself a few minutes to close your eyes and then write down where are some places that you would love to live, but maybe it just doesn't make sense to you right now. Or where are some places that you would love to live, but you haven't even really given yourself an opportunity to think about where they would be? Maybe you can even start, it doesn't even have to be a destination. Maybe you can think about your surroundings. Maybe think about a dwelling. Would it be an apartment? Would it be a home? What would the climate be like? How many rooms would there be? What would the environment be like? Is it a city? Is it rural? Is it, maybe a subdivision? So think now and just imagine what that would look like for you. What would what does your mind automatically go to when you close your eyes and you think about this place that you would love to be living one day? Okay? And when you think about that and you write it down, you don't have to prevent yourself from writing it down because it just doesn't make sense to you and you tell yourself like, oh, there's absolutely no way this would ever happen. Just write it down. There's no commitment to it. Nobody has to see it. Nobody has to tell you that that's impossible for you to do. You're just simply allowing yourself to notice some of these things. Okay. And so after you give yourself a little bit of opportunity to just get into the zone of what your environment would be like, and tell me, what are some of the things that would allow you to welcome that into your environment? Would it be a new job? Would it be making more money? Would it be telling someone in your family that you're moving away? Would it be talking to your partner about potentially relocating? Maybe it's a conversation that you're fearful of having. And we talked about this. One of my students, I have been working on this. She's potentially going to be relocating and talking about like, what does that conversation look like? What are all the things that just come to your mind that you would need to accomplish in order to make it to that place? And what does the timeline look like? Maybe you don't want to move next month. Maybe you don't want to move next year. Maybe in a few years, you have an idea in your mind. So start thinking about the timeline of it. It doesn't mean that you're having to commit to that right now, but maybe you can tell yourself, all right, I just know in 2 years, I'm going to think about this. In 2 months, I'm going to think about this. And until then, I'm just going to let my mind continue to marinate about being at that point in my life. And when you put it on paper, it just allows you to have sort of this target. And then that target doesn't seem so unattainable. And so allowing yourself to also look at what you have. That was something for me. You've heard me talk about selling my dream house. The house that I thought I was going to bring my babies home to was special to me, not only because that's where I thought I was going to become a mom, but I also loved that house. The decoration in the house, the finishes in the house, the furniture in the house. I loved that. Was like literally my dream house, like something when I was a young girl or even fresh out of college and into the working world. Like I never in 1,000 years would have imagined I could have lived in something so beautiful, but I did. And that made it so much harder for me to say goodbye to it. So maybe you're finding yourself being somewhere that you tell yourself it will never get better than this. And what if it doesn't have to get better than that? What if you could do the same thing somewhere else? If you've done that once before, maybe if you're desiring to be somewhere else geographically or your environment to physically be different, if you love where you are right now or love aspects of your life where they are right now, maybe it's your neighbors, maybe it's the proximity to family. I mean, there's a host of things that might be telling you that if you leave this physical environment, that it's never going to be better anywhere else. What if that's false? Because we sold our house and we're renting. Like I never would have thought in my 40s I would be a renter. And I was like uncomfortable with that because renting in my mind, my uncoached, unmanaged mind, renting was sort of like not a grown up thing to do. I don't have to rent forever, but what if my renting is allowing me to have this freedom so that in my next venture, I can have a different type of environment to be in or a different type of physical setting to be in. So if you tell yourself that there's a right way and a wrong way to live your life, you create a lot of judgment for yourself. And when you judge yourself, you don't let yourself dream, you don't allow yourself to be open and free to things because you have been conditioned or your mind has been conditioned to believe that there is a right way and a wrong way of doing things. And so we oftentimes close ourselves off of experiencing different types of things or meeting new people or looking at new environments or looking into new hobbies because that's just not the right thing to do or not the way that you were raised to live or the type of environment that you were conditioned to believe is the right environment for you. And if you can just allow yourself to believe that if if your physical surroundings are the only thing that are going to make you happy, then you're always going to be attached to things outside of you. And that's something that I found with me and my old house. It was a beautiful home. It was an impressive home. It was a home that people who came to visit told me like it was the most beautiful thing they ever had been in. And I came to realize that a lot of my acceptance of myself and a lot of my worth that I associated with who I was and what I accomplished in my life was associated with tangible things. It was associated with material things. It was associated with a sofa or a piece of art or these things that are great to have. I mean, I like them. I enjoy them. I enjoy art. I love having great, beautiful furniture. I love having my own style and a modern look in my house. Like, but I had to allow myself to let go of those things in order to see that without a beautiful home or without an impressive this or a sought after that, I was so much freer because that allowed me to see like I can recreate those things. And maybe I don't even want to recreate them. Maybe there's things in your life that you're holding on to because they feel secure to you. And when we go through fertility treatments and we've dreamed of this life that turned out so differently, it may feel really good for you right now to just hold on to these things that are constants in your life or things that are known things in your life. And there will be a time when you can let go of those things and bring yourself to this next level. And it doesn't have to be a better stage of life or a worse stage of life or a lateral stage of life. It could just be something different that you've experienced. And letting go of the thing that you think is giving you the security in your life can be so freeing. And even this condo that we moved into, it's, in my opinion, probably one of the most beautiful condominiums in all of Chicago, the most beautiful view of the city I have ever seen. And when our lease came up, I could have easily been like so sad to leave this, but we're going to a smaller place with a different view in a different type of setting. And I find myself being excited about that and not feeling like I'm giving anything up, but that because I am childless, not by choice, I'm able to grow from that instead of be held by that and be feeling suffocated by that title that I associated with. Like I thought because I was childless after infertility, that my life would never grow past that, that I would just have to hold on to these things that gave me this worth in my life. But now I can see like all this change. So now we're going to our next apartment. We're still renting. I signed a 2-year lease. So for 2 years, anything could happen. Who knows? Like maybe we'll find a house somewhere else and we'll buy a house again. Maybe we're going to move out of Illinois. Maybe we're going to relocate somewhere across the world. Who knows what happens? But it's just such an interesting concept that so many of my students come to work with me feeling as though they can't allow things to change because dealing with the change of becoming a woman without children is just too much to bear. So the other things just have to stay contained in their life. And then they've come to realize, like, if anything, it's holding them back. And that is the power of coaching. And that is the power of being part of Thrive and working with a life coach, is learning how much more is available to you that you haven't even considered. And for so long before coaching, I remember feeling just so trapped and so stuck and thinking, like, is this the best that it's going to get in my life? And feeling like I tapped out. Like here I was in, my late 30s and my early 40s and thinking like this was the best my life was going to get. And it felt so suffocating. So I really want you to start allowing yourself to dream about, if things were to change, how would they change? And maybe it's not your house. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's an organization that you're a part of. Maybe it's a volunteer opportunity. Maybe it's finding new friends or joining a community or working with a coach. I mean, there's a host of things that could change in your life, but you have to first believe that you are open to this change and that the change doesn't have to be scary to you. It could be exciting to you. And even if it's so different and the security blanket of life that doesn't really feel good to you, but feels secure, could be the thing that is holding you back. So I've just been really thinking about that. And obviously, watching so many of my students grow and the beautiful things that they have accomplished through their journeys and through our time working together in coaching. And I just want to offer that to you this week. I also want to ask if you could help me reach a goal of mine. So I am about to hit 20,000 downloads of the So Now What podcast. And I'm asking if you can help me by writing and rating the podcast. If you've listened to an episode and it spoke to you in some certain way, could you please write a review of what the podcast is for you? Maybe there's something that it sparked in you. Maybe you just enjoy listening. Maybe you enjoy knowing that there's other people out there who you hear your story through and you've never heard anyone else experience the thing that you've experienced through your infertility journey. And the reason I ask you to rate and review it is because the more ratings and reviews, the algorithm gods will then farm it out and have it show up on people's search terms and when they're searching on Google. So if you could just do that for me, I will send you a t-shirt from the Others Day Brunch. All you have to do is send me a screenshot of your review and I will reach back out to you, get your address from you, and I will send you an Others Day t-shirt from our Others Day Brunch in Chicago this year. If you didn't hear about the Others Day Brunch, go on Instagram or you can go to stitchcoaching.com. I'm sorry. If you haven't heard about the Others Day Brunch, you can go on lanamanikowski.com and rewatch a fabulous national news story that covered the Others Day Brunch and the mission of the Others Day that I founded in 2022. It was a glorious event. If you want to be part of our Others Day Brunch next year, you can reach me at lanamanikowski.com. Hope you have a good week. I love you. And remember, it is never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.